All right, here we go. Back at it again for another edition of Knicks Weekly, the weekly recap show where we discuss all things Knicks. CP the franchise here. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Tonight's episode, we are going to go through our top 10 Knicks draft big board with our resident draft analyst, Alex Amarante, the No Ceilings podcast, also of KnicksFanTV. We'll talk a little playoffs, recap the NBA playoffs games that are occurring right now and last night's game as well against the Heat and the Celtics. And finish off with a couple of Knicks draft news. Knicks have hired 2 new scouts to their department, one of which is a head scratcher. Kind of pissed me off. But we're going to talk about that, all of that. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Back in the building. Good to be back. Let's get it going. All right, fellas. We got 2 Alexes in the building. So for tonight's show, Alex Trataros, the Stratocaster, my primary co-host, will go by Trat. And then our special guest, Alex Amarante, will go by Alex. So you will be the default Alex. But welcome back to the show, man. I hope all is well, man. How's everything going?
All's good. Appreciate you having me back on. Appreciate you giving me the honor of, going by my first name, going up against the other Alex here. No, but life is good. I mean, the weather's warming up. Draft talk is heating up. Life is good. How are things with you guys?
Yeah, doing well, man. Doing well. We'll definitely get into all that. But let's start off with our top 10 Knicks draft board, man. Knicks draft coming up June 24th. Another important one for the orange and blue. Let's start with number 10 on your draft board, man. Who do you got there at number 10?
Yeah, so number 10, I have Mark Williams, center out of Duke, 7-footer, 7'7" wingspan. Really all you're looking for in that rim running big type. Probably the best, college defender, him and maybe a couple other centers. But I think he's going to immediately translate and be a starting level center kind of from day one. So, the Mitch situation's kind of up in the air. So if they do want to kind of cut bait with Mitch, I think Mark Williams would be kind of a pretty good fill-in for him right away at the number 11 pick.
All right, let's go to number 9.
Yeah, number 9, Jalen Duren out of Memphis. Similar kind of situation. If Mitch is, going to leave, I think center makes a little bit of sense here. Jalen Duren is kind of the higher upside play between the 2 centers this high up on the draft board. About 6'10", 6'11", long wingspan, super athletic, leaper, another dive man. Has some passing flashes that are really interesting. The big thing for him is just to increase his kind of mobility on defense. He does have some moments where he is really good out on the perimeter, and then sometimes his feet are a little too slow. So that's kind of the one thing with him. And then him and Mark Williams really, if they can extend out to the mid-range, I think those are 2 things that both guys can work on.
Let's go to number 8.
Yeah, 8, Malachi Branham, guard out of Ohio State. One of the youngest players in college basketball this season, really stepped up in a big way the second half of the season. Really smooth in the pick and roll, can hit some nice pull-up mid-range jumpers, just really hyper-efficient shooting guard. That I think can fit well with the Knicks core that they really have at the guard slot.
Malachi Branham out of Ohio State. Okay, who do you got at number 7?
Yeah, number 7, Tari Eason. He's the kind of versatile forward out of LSU, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", in shoes. He's got a 7-foot wingspan. Can do a little bit on the ball. He's super athletic in transition, really a good grab and go candidate. Really, I think can, add some athleticism, add some speed to this Knicks lineup. Him playing alongside guys like Obi and Randall in transition, I think would be electric. So I think, with the Randall situation, if he goes, I think you can play them together, but ideally I think, if you're going to draft Tari Eason, you're probably going to move on from Julius Randle at some point and move forward with Obi Toppin and Tari Eason as kind of your 4 men.
Moving on to number 6.
Yeah, number 6, I have Jeremy Sochan out of Baylor. Again, similar situation to Tari. He's a power forward, so the Julius Randle question is always going to be there. But he's another versatile defender. Really can guard 2 through 5, maybe even 1 through 5 if he really reaches his max potential. Had some offensive flashes as a roll man. Can hit a spot up jumper, but the jumper is kind of the main concern with him. So if he can add that to his game, I think he could be a really kind of two-way impact forward for them.
Jeremy Sochan out of Baylor. Let's take a look at number 5.
Yeah, number 5, I have Ousmane Dieng. He played this last season in the NBL in Australia, but originally he's from France. I know French prospects in the Knicks universe are a little polarizing, but he's a little bit different than the last one. He's a 6'10", kind of like a combo guard, wing, forward, kind of does a little bit of everything. Runs really nice pick and roll, has good pick and roll reads, good vision. The jumper is a little weird looking, but he did have a really good second half to his season. So if you do want to go back and look at his tape, I do recommend the second half of the season, not the first half, because if you watch just the first half, you'll think I'm crazy. But he's long, he's athletic. He just really needs to work on his frame, get stronger, get more comfortable really driving to the rim. I think that's the kind of one major key point that he needs to focus on moving forward.
Yeah, and NBL has had some success. Josh Giddey coming out last year. Obviously, LaMelo, the year before that. So NBL has certainly had some success. You got, Patty Mills. No, not Patty Mills. Who's the other guy? Dellavedova's down there. Yep. So you got some former NBA players down there, but some rising stars as well. So Dieng is certainly an interesting candidate. Let's look at number 4. Who's number 4 on your list?
Yeah, number 4, I have Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin. 6'5" guard.
I thought, Dyson Daniels is number 4.
So I switched it up. I go back and forth.
Right, no doubt.
I can talk about Daniels though.
Yeah.
Daniels, so G League Ignite point guard, 6'7", 6'10" wingspan, really good passer, really smart player on offense. Probably the best perimeter defender in this class. Can guard 1 through 3 pretty easily. I think as he bulks up, he might be able to guard 4s as well. So again, there's a theme in all these guys I'm picking. They're all pretty versatile on both ends of the floor. The one kind of caveat with him is the shooting. A lot of people are lower on it than I probably am. I actually think he's probably a better shooter than the numbers show from the G League. He had a good second half of the year. But yeah, that's kind of the one thing that I think he really needs to focus on is just getting that jumper down pat. Because as everyone on this call knows, the Knicks definitely needs more shooting. I think that's one of the main kind of areas the team isn't lacking per se with guys like Quickly and Fournier, but they need more kind of versatile shooters.
Yeah, no question, and definitely want to touch on that once we get through all the picks. So number 3, Johnny Davis, man. Let's talk about Johnny Davis a little bit.
Yeah, so Johnny Davis, 6'5", shooting guard, combo guard out of Wisconsin. He's just a competitor. I mean, he's probably the most bulldog defender out of anyone in this class. You're never going to really catch a possession that he's kind of just given up and not giving 100%. And that's coming from him being, this high usage offensive player at Wisconsin where he had to do everything. No shot came easy from him. He was seeing double teams, triple teams, which, makes his efficiency numbers look not as good as they probably will look in the NBA when he's not kind of the sole man driving the offense, but really, smooth, athletic guy, solid defender. I think he's going to be, a two-way impact player from day one, and just a really, really solid player moving forward.
Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin just met with the Knicks this past week during his workout at Wisconsin. Said he had a good interview with Tibbs, so see where that goes. All right, number 2 on your list.
Yeah, number 2, Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona. 6'6" wing, one of the better shooters in this class. Really versatile shooter, off movement. He added a little bit of off the dribble game this year, but that's something that he'll definitely need to improve on. But really athletic. Defense, he came and gone with the effort on the defensive end, but I think in Tibbs' system, you're not going to play if you don't play defense and you don't try hard. So I think he can get that out of his system pretty easily on the Knicks. and just another guy that I think slots in at that 2 or 3 position. And I think he can end up guarding threes, which ultimately I think is kind of the lacking area on the Knicks defensively. Is they have these smaller guards that can guard 1 and 2. They have RJ who can guard threes, but outside of RJ, you don't really have any plus defenders on the wing that can guard the bigger wings in the NBA, and those are kind of where all the stars are outside of the Giannis's of the world. So I think having kind of those bigger wings is really versatile, or really important moving forward for the Knicks.
Yeah, no question. Mathurin, he's at 6'6", right?
Yeah, I think just under 6'6". I think he just measured that.
Copy. And then number 1 on the list, I see a couple of guesses in the chat, but who's number 1 on the list?
Yeah, so number 1, I have AJ Griffin out of Duke. I mean, one of the best shooting seasons you'll ever see from an 18-year-old freshman in college basketball, and he's still 18. He'll be 18 on draft night, one of the youngest guys in this draft. So he's a guy that, I mean, he shot 45% from 3. There are...
Okay, back again on AJ Griffin.
Yeah, so AJ, I mean, he's one of the best shooters in this class, straight up. Again, another big wing. The defense, wasn't there. He had flashes of, block shots, steals, and that, but the fundamentals, are kind of up in the air. But I think he's definitely has the tools to really become a decent defender. He's big. He's 6'6". I think he has a 7-foot wingspan. He wasn't at the combine measuring wise, so not confirmed on that, but he's just a guy who slots in, and he's going to be able to be a spot up shooter at the very least from day one at 18 years old. It's rare to find those guys. And he's one of these young guys who, most of them, like, the number one thing is to get them in the gym and get their body right. He's already jacked. Like, he's already has an NBA body from day one. Can he get a little more cut, a little more lean, gain a little bit more explosiveness that he used to have in high school before the injuries? Sure. So that's one thing he'll need to, work on a little bit more. But I think when you got a guy who is a career, 40+% 3-point shooter over his high school and college career, I think it's a no-brainer. He's, I think, number 5 on my overall big board. For this Knicks specific one, obviously I'm not, talking about the Chets, the Paulos, Jabari Smith Jr.'s, Jay Nive's. So I excluded those guys and kind of went down the list. So AJ Griffin would be my number 1 kind of selection if he's there at 11.
Well, where like most of the mocks have him at right now, because I feel like 11 might be a little bit too low for him.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, he's kind of all over the place though. I've seen people have him like in that 5 to 7 range, 5 to 8 range. I've seen people have him kind of in the late teens just because of the injury concerns. And the defensive concerns. So I think if he was at 11, it would be because he fell in the draft. I think his probably main slot is probably that, 6 to 10 range. Similar to guys like Dyson Daniels, he's been getting a lot of buzz as a potential top 5 guy. So those are kind of guys that, might have to slip for the Knicks to have a real shot at them. But I think the other guys on the list have a pretty decent chance of being there at 11.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be hard to find, like, the perfect candidate, right? Obviously, we're all looking for the perfect two-way candidate. To me, I put out on IG that wing is really the most important in this draft, because it's not a heavy point guard draft. I didn't even see Ty Washington anywhere near your top 10, right? And maybe Daniels has point guard potential, but, again, look at the playoffs. The wings are the stars of this thing, and it's wing after wing. It's Tatum and Brown. It's Butler. It's Hero. It's Middleton when he's healthy. It's everybody that Golden State has. You need that type of versatility there. And, that was one of the areas where I think we were weakest at this year, is that we just didn't have that. As much of a flawed offensive game as Reggie Bullock had, he was a versatile defender. He guarded sometimes the 1s, he guarded the 2s, he guarded the 3s, and we really just didn't have that. But offensively, Griffin is intriguing because I think the fit with Julius and RJ is very difficult in terms of the next guy coming in, because in one area we need a guy who can be a shot creator, but also a guy that can play off of those two guys because those two guys are going to be dominating the ball. And Griffin, kind of fits that profile. He was excellent in the half court, excellent on catch and shoots, guarded and unguarded. Can get his own shot in isolation as well. 45% from three. Yeah, I mean, you got to like that, man.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his synergy percentile rankings across all different jump shot scenarios. They're 95th and plus percentile. Like, he had a ridiculous shooting season, and he was a great shooter in high school too. So it's not like it was just a fluke season on low usage or anything. And yeah, I think he would fit pretty nicely alongside high usage guys like RJ and Randall. He just did it with Paulo Banchero, sorry. At Duke. So it's nothing new to him. So I think, having some floor spacing, can you get a little bit of that high school athleticism back? We'll see. But I think if he just really doesn't have to get that explosive, just get a little more lighter on his feet. I think that's the number one thing for him, especially on the defensive end. He can get kind of slow footed. But I think you can work out that pretty easily with NBA training. So we'll see. I mean, I would absolutely love if he fell to 11. I would sprint up to the podium and take him.
Track, I didn't jump in here.
Yeah. So with AJ Griffin, so you mentioned that he's probably one of the better shooters in this draft, like at the wing position, right? He has the tools to become a decent defender. Do you see this being more as like an upside, like you're banking on like a high upside with him, like a high ceiling, or are you saying that there's a low enough floor here that it still works out for the Knicks either way? Because I don't think the Knicks, as of right now, they're currently constructed, are there to start taking like major swings on guys where there's question marks. So does AJ Griffin fall in that category?
I think you get kind of the best of both worlds. I think the floor is high enough just with the shooting alone that he'll be an NBA player. Like, he'll be a rotation player. And then he does have like this untapped potential of, self-creation, isolation play, running a little bit more pick and rolls. How does he look there? He ran a little bit, and the numbers are pretty decent, but didn't really get, much opportunity with the talent that Duke had on their team. So, and then defense, like if he improves on defense, to a decent amount, he could become an all-star. Like, he has that kind of high upside, but I think the floor is low enough just because of the shooting.
All right. Now I'm going to ask you a little bit about. Are we ready to move on from AJ? Okay, cool. Because I really like Johnny Davis, and I feel like that's what we need on this team. Like you mentioned, dog played both ways, offense and defense. Took on the double teams. Something that we saw Devin Booker complain about practicing during the summer, right?
Yep.
Why do you have him third on your list when you already mentioned that he's a dog? Someone that when you hear a dog defender, like that just fits Tom Thibodeau, right? We're talking about offense, a guy who's able to have the ball in his hand a lot of the time, high usage player, and can score from whatever the defense throws at him. That just sounds like a guy that the Knicks need. So why is he down at 3 and you have AJ Griffin up at 1?
Yeah. So with him, Johnny Davis, I mean, Tibbs will absolutely love him, right? So I think that would be a perfect fit for his system. I don't really have too many concerns on the defensive end. My one hang up with Johnny Davis is, how much does his self-creation translate to the next level? He wasn't that great at creating separation at college. He's a great, tough shot maker. But again, that's against college defenders, right? So how much, does that, deficiency even lower even more against NBA defenders? We'll see. And then again, you mentioned with RJ Barrett and Randall, adding in another guy who's used to having the ball in his hands all the time, used to being like the guy on his team creating the offense. I'm just a little slightly hesitant on how that all fits, especially because he's not this knockdown shooter. I don't think he's a 30% three-point shooter like his college numbers
that's what I was gonna say. What do you think about that low number? Was it a result of his higher usage this year, or what do you think about that?
I think shot difficulty. I think just having nowhere else to go, really. He had to take a lot of tough pull-up jumpers in the mid-range from 3. His three-point jumper, he does seem to be a little short on it, a pretty decent amount. Again, could be just because he was tired from playing both sides of the ball, right? So it goes both ways. But I think he'll probably end up probably around like 35%, like league average shooter. I don't think he's like this terrible shooter. I think his free throw percentage was pretty good. And I don't really think he's like a dead eye shooter, but I don't think he's as bad of a shooter as the numbers kind of show from Wisconsin.
All right. Moving on, I got Dyson Daniels. You know, him, I think the biggest concern is his jumper, and we're already starting to see that there's potential. You know, there's talk about him moving up the draft right now. We saw the videos from his combine, whatever you want to call it, training, whatever you want to call that. How about him? Because we know he's got the playmaking, we know he's got the size, the versatility to guard 1 through 4 that he can kind of guard, right? With his size. Yeah. So if you have that, but the jumper is the question that we need. Do you really think the Knicks are going to take that upside of a playmaker, defender, when we need another guy who needs to be able to put the ball in the hoop?
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I don't think he'll be there at 11. I think he'll probably go in that 7 to 10 range right before the Knicks, unfortunately. But I would definitely take a swing on him. This is a guy who's kind of grown up in a developmental kind of system throughout his whole career, and he's gotten better each and every year. He was running point for, the Australian national team, the U19s. He was running point for G League Ignite for most of the season. And, he's still 18, or he might have just turned 19, but a young kid, really smart player. You see that on the defensive end. You see that when he's, on offense, pick and rolls. There must be something in Australia. I feel like they just breed these guys to be incredible passers. Josh Giddey, we saw, Taron Armstrong, a guy in college basketball this season, was probably the best passer, both from Australia. But yeah, he's just a really super high IQ guy. And the jumper, I think he has a really good floater. So that's kind of the one thing I'm banking on, that he'll figure out the jumper, because from a touch standpoint, I think he has touch. I think he just needs to clean up a little more mechanics, get it a little quicker. I don't think he'll ever be kind of this pull-up shooter. But can he get to a point on catch and shoots and spot ups where RJ Barrett was last year, like 40% on spot up attempts? I think he can get there. It's just that, is that enough to really unlock everything you want out of him? Or is he just going to be this catch and shoot guy who's really good at passing and a really good defender, which is still a solid player that I would take at 11. And, I think if you get a starting caliber guy at 11, that's a home run here at the 11th pick.
No
For
question.
sure. Do you think he's going to be the point guard of this team if he came on here, or is he playing wing? What's happening?
So I wouldn't throw him a point guard right away.
No.
At least his handle is not good enough right now. I would probably play him like off ball, second side, kind of pick and roll action, dribble handoffs with Julius, things like that. I wouldn't just throw him, into the fire, play full-time point guard for the New York Knicks day one, because I think that has a recipe of disaster. But there's no one else in this draft who's going to be a point guard on this team from day one. So whoever they draft will not be a point guard from day one.
True.
Just play quickly at point guard if you're looking for
play
a point guard.
Play quick, man. Let me hit this reset real quick. Oh, you have one more on Dyson? Go ahead and finish your point on Dyson.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, let me hit this reset button real quick. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. CP the franchise back at it. Another edition of Knicks Weekly. We were just talking to our resident draft analyst, Alex Amarante of KnicksFanTV and the No Ceilings Podcast. Shout out to Corey, my guys at No Ceilings Podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel. Make sure you guys are hitting that thumbs up button for you boys if you are enjoying this show. Call us up if you guys want to talk. Jump in on the draft talk. 657-383-1509 is the number to call, or you can hit us up on the Knicks Fan TV Discord. I see a lot of people in the chat right now. Salute to all the mods. Salute to the rhyme animal Chuck D in the building, a legend amongst us. Everybody throw a hashtag PE in the chat. Chuck sent a $10 super chat. He says, I'm good with whoever the way it plays out. I'm just following the leadership here and the predictions and the brass. The bigger picture, hopefully, is not marooning these choices at the end of the bench full of DMPs. And you know what? It's funny because I see a lot of people, man, and all over the place, whether it's Twitter right now, people in the chat, or Instagram, whenever you're talking draft, there's so many naysayers that's just like, it doesn't matter anyway because Tibbs is not going to play him. Doesn't matter because Tibbs is not going to play him. And I'm just like, people, you gotta relax. First off, I go back, quickly averaged 20 minutes a game as a rookie. Obi situation was management's fault, not necessarily Tibbs. Yes, we should have ingrained the rookies and the younger players more into the rotation this past season. Guys still got looks. Guys are still playing. You don't draft a kid just based on whether or not he's going to get playing time. You don't do that. You go out, you either get the best player available or you get the player that fits the need on this team. The cream will rise to the top or he will earn his way into the rotation. And guess what? The odds are that this draft pick, whoever it is going to have a longer tenure on the Knicks than Tibbs anyway. So you go out, you go get the kid that you feel like best fits your team, and you figure the rest out as the season progresses, man. These kids will find a way into this rotation. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Last thing I want to say, ladies and gentlemen, this show is one of our sponsors, Manscaped, fellas. Make sure you guys go out and get that new lawnmower 4.0. It'll change your life. Right now in the New York area, it was 90 degrees both today and yesterday. Fellas, if you haven't taken care of the family jewels, man, you better do it. Because I'm telling you right now, it was hot, and I know down there wasn't too kosher. So make sure you go get that lawnmower 4.0. Take care of the family jewels. You guys are going out on dates. You guys are going out, we outside and all of that. Make sure you handle business first, man. Go to manscaped.com. Enter promo code KFTV, and they will give you 20% off plus free shipping. And you guys know I've been rocking with Manscaped for a couple of years now. They got a ton of great products for today's man. So go out there and support manscaped.com. Promo code KFTV for 20% off plus free shipping. Okay, my guy Al. Mathurin is a guy I really like, man. I think he's a dog. I think he has the athleticism that we sorely need on this team. He's RJ's nation mate, fellow Canadian. Puts in the work. I was very encouraged by his draft interviews. How do you see him fitting in with this current unit and specifically RJ and Julius right now?
Yeah, I think it would be a pretty seamless fit. I mentioned 6'6", can shoot, doesn't demand the ball on offense too often. Really good cutter, really good off screen. So I can envision him, giving some movement to this offense, running, screens off the side, popping out to the corners, doing dribble handoffs. He can really add some motion to this offense that I think is desperately needed. A lot of the time there could be a lot of standing around, and whether that's, Julius holding the ball or, not running enough plays, who knows, but there needs to be movement on the basketball court in order to really have a free-flowing game. We see it in the playoffs. We see it in the regular season. I think Golden State Warriors are obviously the number one example that comes to mind. So I think he would be, a great fit. Athleticism. I think that's another thing this team is lacking. RJ is an okay athlete. Julius is an okay athlete. Mitchell Robinson's a great athlete vertically. IQ's all right, but there's no really, top tier athletes, in this starting lineup. And I think Benedict Mathurin can really add that spark to this team. And again, he's just a seamless fit. He's a guy who could shoot. He's a guy who I think will defend at the next level. He will try hard at the very least. You saw during the game in the NCAA tournament, I think against TCU.
TCU, yeah.
He just took over. Like, they were dead in the water. Arizona was going to get upset, and he just took over. And he would not let them lose. He had that put that dunked on that guy that just sent everything, Arizona's way. So he's a guy that, and that's why he's number 2 on my board. He's just a guy that can seamlessly fit, really checks a lot of boxes that the Knicks are looking for right now. And he's kind of that bigger wing that is kind of missing in this backcourt.
All right. Let's move. I want to ask you something about Jeremy Sochan because, we got the New York Post article from Berman saying that he's got the mindset. He could be a good Tibbs fit, but there's something that you brought up. 2 players. We got Randall and Obi Toppin. How is that? Now you said they would have to move on from Randall if you're bringing this guy in.
I think. I mean, what are you gonna do with? I mean, I don't know if you're going to really play any of those two together for extended minutes. So I feel like it would be a kind of a wasted pick if they have 4 or 3 power forwards who can't play together.
I only ask that because, they say he's a switchable defender 1 through 5, right? So is there any way you can get him in there on offense playing at the wing at all and like have him slide in between RJ and Randall just to, we're not going to see that with, we know we're not going to see that with Obi and Randall because Tibbs prioritizes rim protection.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get someone who's a switchable defender, and is athletic, mobile, has the agility to do so, there's not really a reason to say he can't be in that lineup. So is there a way you could fit him in the rotation with that regard?
Yeah, I think he can play some spot 5 minutes for sure. He's not.
Okay.
Wouldn't want him playing the 5 for like 20 plus minutes a game or anything like that, especially this early on. But yeah, he's kind of that guy who, you mentioned versatile defender. I think on offense, I wouldn't want him next to Randall and RJ though.
Right.
I'm just not buying the shot enough yet. He could do pick and pops a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think it's tough to win when you have 3 guys who are questionable shooters at the very least on the court without having kind of 2 dead-eye shooters next to him. So I think at the end of the day, if you're going to draft either one of these guys, Tari Eason or Jeremy Sochan, I think you'd probably want to move Randall and see what you can get for him, or move Obi. Like it's one of the two. I think you either got to cut bait with, because I just don't see from a value standpoint. I don't think spending the number 11th pick on a guy who's going to be your number 3 power forward and maybe play 10 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game. I just don't see it really working out long term. But if they want to bring him along slowly, I guess that would make sense. And then maybe move Randall or move off of Obi. Don't give Obi an extension off his rookie deal, something like that. So you never know. That's why, he's a little lower on my list just because of that standpoint. But he's definitely a lottery talent. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Yeah, I think that that's my biggest issue with Sochan, Eason. The way this team is built right now. To me, I'm looking for an igniter. I'm looking for a guy who can provide us with some scoring punch, some scoring efficiency. We have 2 below the 3-point line inefficient scorers right now in Julius and RJ. We got to balance it a little bit more. And it's either got to come from the 1 or it's got to come from the 3. And so, while Sochan and Eason can profile to be good players, I just question the fit right now with this team. Similar with the bigs. Duren and Mark Williams, they fundamentals wise, skill set wise, they've got better tools than Mitch right now. You know what I'm saying? But it's just, I just feel like we've got to really prioritize either the 1 or the 3 to really help bring some more dynamics to this offense. Now, if they do go out and get one of these 2 bigs, then you pretty much know where they stand with Mitch, and they won't invest in him, and they'd rather reset that rookie contract on some more versatile bigs as Williams and Duren kind of profile to be. So certainly going to be interesting.
I'd be a little irritated if we drafted a big.
Me too. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I would be irritated if we drafted a big.
They're my 10th and 9th best options. So I'd be in the same boat.
For sure, but they got mocks showing that we're going to take either one of them right now, wherever you go. And CP, you posted it to IG where you had me talking about the necessity for wings, right? And as Alex already said, you don't see a point guard on his top 10 list. The bigs are at the bottom. Yeah. We need a wing, and Alex talked about it too. Our only guy that can guard the top wings in this league, whether it be a Kevin Durant, a Jason Tatum, a Jaylen Brown, whoever, is RJ Barrett. That's this. So this, I asked this on the last show. Are any of these guys between AJ Griffin, Benedict Mathurin, Johnny Davis, Dyson Daniels, would you trade assets to move up and solidify this position to get one of these guys?
Probably not.
Okay.
Because I think the draft is pretty flat after the top 4 or 5 guys. So I think, if you end up with just one of these wings, I think you're fine. There's not much, for me at least, there's not much separating them. I think if you want that guy who's going to be that lockdown defender to guard threes, I think Dyson Daniels is probably the best option. But if you want a more kind of versatile offensive weapon, then probably Mathurin or Johnny Davis or AJ Griffin are probably the other options. So it depends where they want to go with, who's left. But I don't think any of these guys that I listed are worth trading up for. The only guy I would really trade up for would be Jaden Ivey, who isn't on my list because I just assume he's going to go top 5 at the very least. But I think the price might be too steep to trade for a guy like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure they jump up there to go get a guy like that. And I'm with you. I don't see the other guys being guys that are worth trading up for. Now, trading down could certainly be a possibility. We've seen it with the Knicks, man, where, they found value there, man. They've been trading these past 2 drafts with Brock Aller and Leon Rose and those guys in tow. You never know. I was talking on Macri's show when we did the crossover. Shout out to Macri and Knicks Film School, where we talked about, could they once again be looking to acquire draft capital for a future trade down the road, in which maybe they trade down a couple of spots? Is it a Malachi Branham that then comes into the picture, maybe 15 or down the road? What do you think about him out of Ohio State?
Yeah, I like Malachi Branham a lot. 6'5", shooting guard, 6'10" wingspan. He's not the best athlete or anything, but he's very smooth, very poised for a freshman. One of the best, pick and roll operators there are. It was on pretty low usage, but he can pick out the right pass. He is a really good kind of 1-2 dribble pull up. He reminds me kind of like a 6'5" Jabari Smith Jr., basically. Like, he has a little bit of a pull up game. He could defend a little bit. He's not overly athletic, but he has enough athleticism that functional, like on the basketball court, it works. And he just, you watch him in interviews, he's very articulate. He does not seem like an 18-year-old kid coming out of college. Like, he seems like a veteran in the NBA already. So I think he's very poised. I think something that, Tibbs would like in him. I think he's a competitor. He's a guy that, I'm not sure how much you're going to get, self-creation wise, but at the end of the day, I think the Knicks have enough of that, or at least they have guys who want to do that enough, that they just want a guy who kind of fits in, knows his role, can come off screens, cut, knock down open jumpers, play defense. I think Branham kind of checks all those boxes.
Malachi Branham out of Ohio State. Al, any more on the big board? Trat, any more on the big board?
I guess it's not really on the big board, but I see people in the chat saying, the disrespect to Cam Reddish.
Yeah. Cam Hive, when you said we didn't have a wing to guard those guys, I knew Cam Hive was going to come for you, man. Yeah. Cam Hive is ready. They're jumping at the bits.
Cam Hive is ready. I know that.
And I like Cam. I like Cam a lot. I liked him coming out of Duke. It's just that we haven't seen it on the Knicks. Like, we haven't seen it enough. Like, I don't know. Obviously Tibbs didn't feel comfortable playing him. They had him for half a season. He barely played. Obviously he was injured towards the end of the season, but we just haven't seen it enough. Would I like to see him play 20 minutes a game this year? Yeah, I would love that. I think he needs to. If they don't draft a wing, I think he definitely needs to get minutes, 100%. I'm just saying, you can never have enough wings who can defend and shoot. You can't have enough of them. 3, 4, 5, just draft them. They're the number one thing, the number one skill set in the NBA is versatile wings who could shoot. And right now they have none, maybe one, sometimes with RJ, maybe Cam. Fournier can shoot, but the defense isn't there. So I think just get, an athletic 3-point shooter who can defend. I think on the wing, that's the number one thing.
I agree with you 100%. We look at teams like the Warriors, you look at the Bucks, you look at, I don't even know, everybody, like the Hawks. Everyone's got enough wings where they're versatile. They can guard multiple positions. They can shoot. And it's not easy for teams like the Knicks when you have a little bit guys on the smaller end and you have to guard all those guys. Mm-hmm. And this is not sliding Cam. You can just have
Cam Hive,
have
stand up.
somebody else.
They're in the chat heavy, man. They're coming for you, bro. Cam Hive, let's go.
That's the thing with versatility, right?
Yeah.
You can play all these guys together if they're versatile enough. Cam, RJ, and a draft pick. They could play the 2, 3, 4.
No, I agree. Sure. I think Cam's versatility needs to be utilized if he's going to be on the team. You got to make a decision on him anyway.
They gave up a first-round pick.
They gave up a first-round pick for him. So they said that he's getting active. He's in the practice facility early. He's trying to get back up to speed after injuring his shoulder late on the West Coast trip last year. So, look, I'm pulling for him. I think he has the tools to help this team, whether it's his athleticism on the offensive end, his playmaking capability, or defensively as well. If he can lock in and put it all together for a full season, I'd love to see it because he can certainly help us.
Who's more ruthless, the Cam Hive or the Rose Hive?
Rose Hive.
Rose Hive.
Yeah, Rose Hive.
They've
Rose
been
Hive.
around forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rose Hive, no question, man. No question. Easily the Rose Hive. So shout out to those guys. So to everybody in the chat once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Another edition of Knicks Weekly presented by PrizePicks. CP the franchise here. We got Alex Rotaros in the building. Special guest, our draft analyst, Alex Amarante of KnicksFanTV and the No Ceilings podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the store is now open, man. The KnicksFanTV store is open. The snaps are available, man. People have been asking me for the snaps for so long. It took us a little while to get the store up and running. New Era Snaps. Royal Blue and Navy. Go ahead and get yours right now, man. Go to KnicksFanTV.com/shop. KnicksFanTV.com/shop. The snapbacks are now available. So to everybody that purchased our first wave of customers, those snaps are going to be going out tomorrow. I was in Miami, so I couldn't get those out, but I'm going to get those out to you tomorrow. So you guys should have that this week. So shout out to everybody that has already visited the new shop and purchased their snaps. But yes, the New Era snapbacks are on deck. Salute to my guy, Will Latimer, in the building. Will always cops his KnicksFanTV merch, so Will definitely salutes you. Jay from Florida in the chat says, send me one. Jay, man, you didn't even pull up on me at my lottery event in South Beach, man. I was looking for you in South Beach, man. What happened to Jay from Florida? They said you were the governor of Florida, Jay. What happened? You didn't even pull up on me, man. But shout out to everybody that did. We definitely had a great time. We had a great turnout down there in South Beach, watching the lottery. Even though we knew what the results were gonna be, like I said, man, this thing is bigger than wins and losses and stuff like that. Just great group of guys came together just to vibe out, all strangers, and we made some connections. Guys came through and connected with one another on the professional level. And that's what it's all about, man. That's what life is all about. I'm all about making those connections. So everybody that pulled up on me at the Clevelander, salute to you guys, South Beach Road Warriors, and coming to a city near you, man. We'll see you guys in Vegas for Summer League. So make sure you guys pull up on us out there in Las Vegas for Summer League. Okay, so that was that on the draft board. Now, Alex, you and I had done a real dope video back in the summer after we drafted Quentin Grimes and Miles McBride. We did a dope KnicksFanTV court vision film breakdown on those guys. Just let's talk about that real quick. Just kind of reflecting on their rookie seasons. Let's start with Grimes, man. What did you think about Grimes, his rookie season, compared to, I guess, how you evaluated him coming out of Houston?
Yeah, I think he exceeded expectations for sure, especially, he was drafted 25th. I think that was higher than what a lot of people expected. I think he was a late riser. He had a great combine last year. I think it seems like the front office really liked what they saw in the scrimmages there and interviews and workout process. So, and I think it paid dividends. He is that plug and play 3-and-D wing. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but he can guard 1s and 2s, some smaller, 3s. But yeah, I think he was great in his minutes that he played. I think he should get more this year. I think they should lean heavily on him. Hopefully, doesn't get injured like last year. But I think for a rookie drafted in the late first round, I think he had, a really, really solid rookie year. And I'm excited to see where he goes from here. I think even if he just keeps on climbing, just to steadily increase, every year, getting a little bit better here and there on the margins, I think they drafted at the end of the day, a possible starting caliber shooting guard. And, at the 25th pick, I think that's, probably one of the best outcomes you can get that late in the draft.
What are you looking for him to improve for this upcoming season? Anything in particular?
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more playmaking. We mentioned the point guard situation. They definitely need more playmaking wherever they can get it. RJ is an okay playmaker. Julius is an okay playmaker. Quickly, I think, took a big leap this year as a playmaker. So if Quentin Grimes can take that, kind of similar leap, I think that's kind of the number one thing I'm looking for. I think the shooting is already solid. The defense is already solid. So the playmaking, I think, would be kind of the number one thing I'd be looking at.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. And that was one of the things that we looked at, on the film, was that, coming out of H-Town, he didn't really put the ball on the floor that much. And we kind of saw that this year as well. Didn't get to the free throw line as much, as was more so 3-and-D, which was a great role for him. And like I said, a great floor for him. And so he's certainly going to be a fixture in this rotation. Tibbs loves him. But I agree with you. I'd like to see, can he put the ball on the floor a little bit more, be a bit more aggressive? And if he does, I think his game could really evolve for sure.
I feel like we saw full flashes of that too throughout the season of his playmaking, especially when he would drive down the middle of the lane and then find guys in the dunker spot or anywhere in the paint and give them some like easy lay-ins. For me, I'd like to see a little bit more shot creation. In all honesty, I feel like that's what we definitely need. Because once again, this team was abysmal when it came to creating offense. I just like to see, especially for him, he's got a good jumper. I'd like to see him put the ball on the court and just see if he can create some separation. That way, when he's out there on the floor, we at least know we have somebody who can create for themselves and give it in crunch time, because Randall wasn't doing it. RJ, we knew he was a little limited. So Grimes, who's got a pretty solid jumper, can do something, especially if he can do like a step back, side step jumper and create that space. I'd like to see him do that for this upcoming season.
How about McBride? What'd you think about McBride's first year?
Yeah, so obviously there's a little bit of a logjam at guard, right? So especially like point guard, smaller guard, where Deuce kind of fits in. So didn't get too much run, but I mean, I think it's clear and obvious that he's too good for the G League. Every time they sent him down, he was putting up like 30, 10 and 10, just crazy numbers in the G League. So I think the defense, he's gonna give other point guards hell, like bringing up the court. Like no really issues there. He's long. He's very disruptive on that end. The real questions are on offense, and I think what Alex was just saying with shot creation for Quentin Grimes. I think with Deuce McBride, that's a huge thing that he'll need to improve on. He likes the mid-range pull-up a lot. I would like to see him extend that out to the three-point line, add a little bit more spacing to his game, add more spacing to this offense, and then driving to the bucket. We saw quickly his rookie year, wasn't that great getting to the rim, settled for the floater a lot. In his sophomore year, wasn't getting to the rim to a crazy amount, but definitely a lot more than his rookie year. Became a little bit more efficient around the rim. So I think that's another thing that Deuce will need to hone in on. And it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here, because, they have a lot of guard options. None of them are really, solidified themselves as kind of a number one, point guard option. Maybe Rokas even comes over, not this next coming year, but the year after, and takes that job. So, I think the point guard situation is kind of up in the air right now, and it'll be interesting to see, what they do this offseason, because I think that will pretty much tell you what they think of, Deuce McBride, the point guard, kind of, moving forward. Do they go after Jalen Brunson or someone like that in the offseason? Then, I think Deuce's future in New York might be a little up in the air.
Yeah, not just McBride, but Quickly too, and not future-wise, because I think Quickly, barring any blockbuster trade, I think Quickly set, but McBride for sure, and both guys, do they go out in free agency? Do they go after Brunson? Do they go after Brogdon? Do they go after somebody in the draft? Do they draft another point later in the first or with the second round pick that they have? I think that'll tell you exactly how they feel about McBride, and so we'll see what the future holds for him. I certainly, obviously, the Houston game was a standout game for him, right? I think he came out with that like 9 dimes, basically finished as the point guard running the offense out there and looked pretty electric. It just seems like it. I don't know if it was they didn't go back to him later on the season and really gave quickly more of the on-ball responsibilities and have McBride in supporting role, or it was his apprehension and just in terms of just, out there overthinking and just not really being aggressive. I'm not so sure, but after that Houston game, we just didn't see much of him being, just being aggressive on ball as the point.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw that when he got the chance to start against Toronto when everyone was out because of health and safety protocols. And then Tibbs pulled him out very quickly and never put him back in that game. Or maybe he did, but close towards the end. But then we didn't really see Deuce for the remainder of that season until things went south. And then you could just put him back in there. But I agree. Like, his future is definitely up in the air if you get someone like Brunson. I mean, he's going to be in the second year of his contract. He'll only have one more year after that. I agree with Alex, and I think we need to see more shot creation out of him. I think the passing and the playmaking is there. I think I'm not saying that he can't improve on it, but I think it's there. You don't just fall into 9 assists, first go, like getting a major minutes out of nowhere. So I think it's there. It's just giving him the opportunity and having him feel comfortable doing that. And even when we saw him in summer league, he can definitely do that. But I don't know. I don't know where Deuce is going to go. I think a lot of that will be determined. There's a lot of projections. The Knicks take a point guard with the second pick if they keep it this season too. So if you bring in another point guard, what does that say for Deuce? What are you going to do with him? Maybe he's going to be a trade filler, if they do draft another point guard in the second round.
Absolutely, man. Now let's get to this draft news in terms of the Knicks scouting team. Knicks added 2 additions to their scouting staff. One of them being Tim Hardaway, fellas. Tim Hardaway Sr. According to Mark Berman, the Knicks never officially announced, but Tim Hardaway Sr. is on the payroll and has been scouting for the Knicks for a minute now. I don't know how I feel about this, man. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if I trust Tim Sr. after all the drama that went down.
He's the ops.
You know what I mean? With Timmy Jr., they did Timmy Jr. kind of dirty. Let's be real. They did him dirty twice. And now you got Tim Sr. in here. I don't know what type of scouting reports, if we can rely on them. I don't know.
They paid Tim Jr. like $72 million.
They did. They did give him the bag. You know what I'm saying? They did give him the bag to make up. Then they traded him.
Yeah.
Then they got him up out of here. So now we got Pops writing scouting reports for us here. I don't know. I don't know if I can trust it, man. I don't know. You guys in the chat be the judge. I don't know.
Weird, man. They didn't even announce it.
They didn't announce it for good reason.
Says a lot.
For good reason. Season ticket holders might revolt. But nah, shout out to Tim. Obviously, basketball great. I'm sure he'll do a great job for us. And then the other guy that we got was his name is, let me get his name right, Nike executive Vince Baldwin Strat, a longtime Nike talent scout who has extensive contacts across his years in high school and college ranks. According to Berman, Baldwin is also close with Knicks senior executive Worldwide Wes. While in the shadows, Wesley reportedly aligned himself with Nike but wasn't on the payroll. Of course not. Wes is never on anybody's payroll. He's just there.
He's just around.
He's just
around.
A
lot of questions about that life, man.
Yeah,
I have a lot of
he's just the guy that knows a guy. You know what I'm saying? That's just Worldwide Wes.
Certified consultant.
Yeah, it says Baldwin and Hardaway were both at Chicago's draft combine. Baldwin proudly wearing a black shirt with the Knicks logo. Okay, Berman being very descriptive here. Anything else? Anything else on Baldwin, Trap?
Looking up, he, as you said, like he was a Nike talent scout, director of Midwest scouting for the Nike Elite Youth Basketball League. He's also an NBA consultant, NCAA certified recruiting analyst. Looking at that, I think when I look at the director for Nike, I think, and even Berman touched on in his article that this is kind of an out of the box hire.
Yeah.
I look at this as someone who understands youth and understands how to evaluate younger players. Not saying that Walt Parent doesn't, but that transition from high school to college, for me, I feel like it's looking for a player who takes it seriously as a job, but still having fun for it. And I feel like him working with younger players like that, he can still add some sort of value in figuring out who would be a good fit for this team, because we're still trying to add character to this team, not just talent. And obviously, you're working with Nike. Obviously, you want top talent. So he's been working around top talent for a long time. But the one thing I will say, though, it doesn't seem like this is a recent hire. If you go on Twitter, you did see that there is a photo of him. You can go if you go to his Twitter page, for anyone out there, you can go find that there is a picture of him and Walt Perrin at University of Kentucky's Pro Day. And this photo was taken back in November of 2021, but that Pro Day happened in October. So he's probably been with the team for a minute now. I don't know if it was officially hired before then, or officially hired now for him to be hired now, being part of the Knicks organization, but he's been around the Knicks organization for a minute, and seems like, he's sitting next to Walt Perrin. I'm only assuming that he's got some legit background when it comes to scouting talent if he's sitting close to Walt Perrin.
Got some juice. All right. Well, hopefully they can bring us some players. All right, because this sounds like another guy with relationships. He's got connects. He's got this. Listen, man, Worldwide Wes has not delivered for us just yet. I'm just saying, Wes, if you're watching, you haven't gotten the job done for us yet. Hopefully you and Vince can, tag team up, whether you're on the payroll, off the payroll. Get us some players, man. Just get us some players. Welcome to the team. Get us some players. Salute to everybody in the chat. Once again, hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Another edition of Knicks Weekly. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, I want to let you guys know that this show is presented by PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. You guys know the drill that have been watching this show. PrizePicks is the show that we play. It's daily fantasy, overs and unders. It's that simple. It's very easy to play. And to support us, just go to prizepicks.com and use promo code KFTV to get a bonus match on your deposit of up to $100. And here's how I played my PrizePicks for tonight, fellas. Here's how I played my PrizePicks for tonight's game. I went with, first off, I went with my guy Clay, one of my favorite players in the league for sure. Clay, averaging the second most points on this Golden State Warriors team. In Dallas tonight for Game 3, I went with Klay Thompson over 18.5 points. And how much does Clay have right now? Clay has, see how much Clay has. He's got 9. All right, so I'm all right so far. So Clay trending well. The next person I went to, I also played tomorrow night's Game 4 of Celtics and Heat. I went with Bam over 16.5 points. Bam had an absolute monster game in Game 3. And if Robert Williams doesn't play again in Game 4, I don't see why Bam wouldn't have another strong outing. So I'm going with Bam again over 16.5 points. I thought that number was low. The next prop that I went with, and I play 5. If you play up to 5, you can win up to 10 times your money. Game 3, I'm expecting a strong performance out of Luka Doncic. It's basically win or go home for this Dallas team. So I went with Luka Doncic over 49.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Right now, he has 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 dime. So he's got 23 right now. It's going to take a big second half effort from him to get it done. But you know what? With points, rebounds, and assists, you can accumulate those quite rapidly. So we'll see what happens there. The next shot I went with, Davis Bertans. At home, Game 3. I went over 0.5 3-pointers made for Bertans. And so far, he hasn't shot one. But you know what? Second half is about to start. I got faith in Bertans. Like I said, it's win or go home. When you're home in these playoffs is usually when, your role plays, your 7th, 8th, and 9th guys typically play well. So I'm putting my money on Bertans just to hit 1-3. And then I went with Jalen Brunson over 3 free throws made. So far in this game, he's hit 1 out of 2. So let's see what happens there. So got a couple of interesting props going there. I went 5 out of 5 for a chance to win $200. But play to win at home. Play responsibly. Go to prizepicks.com. Use promo code KFTV for a bonus match on your deposit of up to $100. All right, fellas. Did you guys take a look at, let's talk playoffs a little bit here. You have Mavs and Golden State getting ready to kick off the second half. So we'll watch that once we wrap up the show. But the Heat with an impressive win over the Celtics last night, dominating in some parts of the game, but the Heat winning 109 to 103, man. Trad, I'll start with you. What were some of your takeaways from that game?
Man, Celtics were just abysmal taking care of the basketball.
Yeah.
So many turnovers. So many turnovers. They also started out really slow as well. It was like 20 to like 8 as soon as the game started. So it had that feeling that Miami was going to run away with this. Very impressive. They were able to come back and get it close. I think it was somewhere between 6 to 9 points left. But one thing that a few things to highlight from that game, Victor Oladipo being a pest on defense, really being a pest towards Jaylen Brown and parts of Jason Tatum, but mostly Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum could not get into rhythm at all. Actually, I thought
that man flustered, man. PJ Tucker had him in the clamps.
Bro, PJ Tucker was doing what PJ Tucker's doing, right? Like that's what's shocking why the Bucks didn't keep him. But for Tatum, I actually thought when he went out and we thought his shoulder was done, Pritchard came back in. Jaylen Brown went on a scoring tear. I was like, maybe you should just leave Tatum out of there. He's not really doing anything tonight. Give him a rest, wax him. I don't know. But those were my two big takeaways from the game. But also Jimmy Butler out. Is he going to be back? That's going to be the big one. If the Celtics can take advantage of Butler being out, if he's not able to play in Game 4.
I think it was Van Gundy that said it. The team that wins this series could be the healthier team, because you got Marcus Smart, who looks like he gets hit with a Mack truck every play from the last series and through this series. He's the toughest guy on the court right now. Jimmy Butler got hurt. Jason Tatum looked like he separated his shoulder. He came back into the game. You got no Time Lord, Robert Williams. He's out. You got guys coming in and out with COVID. So Lowry, gets injured. He comes back. You got Hero went down. It looked like with a thigh contusion or something like that. So it's a walking wounded series. I definitely like number one, the defensive intensity, especially on Miami's part. Spoelstra just being a defensive wizard. The schemes that they come out with, whether it's man, it's zone. They're playing zone on sidelines out of bounds. They're playing physical man-on-man defense. Victor Oladipo was incredible. PJ Tucker had Tatum in jail, just being very, very physical with him. 24 turnovers for the Celtics last night led to 33 Miami points. And like I said, this Miami Heat defense is ferocious, one of the best in the league, no doubt. But some of those turnovers were just careless, man.
Yeah.
It's one thing if they just, take your cookies, but it's another thing if he's just throwing the ball all around. And that's where I think Miami got the Celtics mentally out of sync. And so, they were down by 26. They came back valiantly, but you can't expect to win a game like that when you turn the ball over that much, especially against a good team like this. Alex, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I think you guys hit on the big talking points. I think, the Celtics made a little bit of a run before halftime. And then starting the third quarter, we're cutting into Miami's lead. So I think Miami did a great job kind of holding on to that lead, with Jimmy Butler out for the whole second half. I think Bam, you mentioned CP, stepped up huge. And he was really kind of lost the first two games of the series. Wasn't scoring, wasn't aggressive on offense. Looks like he took that to heart because he came out, I think, what do you have, 41, something like that? Super high, scoring game for Bam. And I think, they needed every single point for him to secure that win. So I think, it's an interesting series. I'm hoping it goes 7 just for entertainment purposes. So it'll be interesting, but definitely going to be a hard fought series. And it could come down to just who's healthy at the end.
Question for both of you guys. Do you think this is more like on the Celtics? Because when I look at it and they were able to get that comeback, right, after having over 20 plus turnovers, that kind of says something about the team, right? Is Miami in trouble or what are we feeling here? Because to even get it that close, I know Jimmy Butler went out, but after 20 turnovers, that should be kind of a lock, though. That should be a lock for a win. And it looked like it was a struggle towards the end of the finish line.
Yeah, I think the Celtics are the better team overall. And if they didn't get into a 26-point deficit so early in the game, I think they probably easily win this game. You mentioned Jimmy Butler is out, but injuries happen on both sides of the ball. And I think at the end of the day, overall, the Celtics are just better. will that translate to wins on the court? Because as you guys mentioned, they were sloppy as hell in that first half, and really the whole game. They're just way too many turnovers. So I think they did beat themselves up a little bit more than kind of Miami beating them in this particular game. So it'll be interesting to see if they bounce back game 4, tie it up. Just if they limit those turnovers, cut them in half, cut them down by 5, 10. I think they should win game 4.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the Celtics have the deeper team, but Miami's defense is just so tough, man. And when Jimmy Butler, I don't think there's very few players that elevate their game the way that he does. You just look at the game that he had in game 1. There's very few that can really match that intensity and really take it up another notch. He just went through an 82-game season. And in the playoffs, he's taking it to another level. This is why, guys are superstars in this league. And then, you have Bam. Look at the performance Bam had last night. 31 points, 10 boards, a couple dimes. You had Bam running the offense out there. His versatility on display. That was the Bam that we saw against the same Boston team in the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble, where you saw him, guarding 1 through 5 and bringing the ball up and just being super versatile out there. And so you just never know. And then on top of that, you have their 3-point guns. You have Max Struss out there. Gabe Vincent, obviously, hero when he can get cooking, he'll get it going. But, he can be sneaky, man. So while I think that the Celtics are a deeper team, I think that he can take this one. So we'll see what happens after tomorrow night's game 4. Well, fellas, great show, man. Great show. Great to be back in the fold. Let me get my outro music here going. Another edition of Knicks Weekly. Before I wrap, I want to shout out, and let me get a couple of shout outs in here. Shout out to, as I said, I was down in Miami for J. Cal, one of our big fans, biggest supporters here on this show. J. Cal is a big podcaster. First of all, he's a major investor down in Silicon Valley, but also a big podcaster. And his podcast, the All In podcast, is basically top 10 on all of the charts. So he held his All In Summit, the first of its kind, down in Miami. So I was down there learning, meeting some good people, man, get my networking on. This is a picture of me and Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer. CP I had to bring out the baby blue, the powder blue, double-breasted joint on him for the
Miami vibe.
Oh yeah, for the Miami vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Have to.
Yeah, I was real Miami with it, with the powder blue, double-breasted joint. So that was for the Goodfellas theme party, and then we had the white party. This is me and J. Cal at the Havana Nights all white party. So shout out to J. Cal for the invitation, man. Had a great weekend. Had a great week out there. Shout out to Future. Shout out to Kevin O'Connor. Shout out to J. Cal and everybody who I was out there vibing with. And again, shout out to the South Beach crew that we linked up with for the lottery. Definitely appreciate everybody for coming out. And shout out to Universal out at Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx, man. Ran into my guy Universal on Saturday in the hospital. Big time KnicksFanTV fan. I went in there with all my KnicksFanTV gear, and we had a nice confrontation. So shout out to Universal, and yeah, man, great show, Al. Great show, Trat. This Thursday, we'll pick things back up with our draft coverage. Derek Murray of Basketball News will be joining us. You're gonna want to bring your questions, and we're gonna cover it, man. Whatever questions that you guys have. Sleepers, second round picks, lottery, whatever you guys want, it'll be open for them. Call up Derek Murray of basketballnews.com. Alex Amarante, let the people know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Draft Film School. All my written work is over No Ceilings NBA on Twitter, No Ceilings TV on YouTube. So go check us out if you're looking for anything. Draft coverage-wise, we put out pretty much content on the daily. So anything you need, go check us out over there.
Absolutely, man. Great work as usual. And man, people in the chat, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Do us that quick favor. Remember, the snaps are in store. We are open for business, man. Go out there and get your KnicksFanTV New Era Snaps and support your boys. KnicksFanTV.com/shop. The show is sponsored by Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, enter promo code KFTV for 20% off plus free shipping. And don't forget PrizePicks, prizepicks.com, promo code KFTV for a bonus match on your deposit of up to $100. And man, that is it, fellas. Great show once again. And we'll see you guys on Thursday. Peace.